What's up, guys? I wanted to talk today about something that has been in the back of my mind, but it's starting to become more and more apparent to me. And I don't want to get anybody, to think negatively, but I gotta be honest. With all of this stuff happening with these NASCAR games every year, I started to think about 704 games. And why is it, I started asking myself, why is it that these guys are not delivering as far as giving us that fully fleshed out product, right? A complete NASCAR game, right? This is what everybody's been wanting, what we've been waiting for every year. We're hoping for the best. And in some ways, uh, in all fairness, they've done a decent job with a few things here and there, but why is it that they just haven't been able to pull it all together? And this goes all the way back to you technics and all this stuff. It's like we keep seeing this yearly incremental improvements, but just barely enough to keep you there. And that like a I don't want to say I had an epiphany, but it was just something there that just struck me as obvious. I thought about 704 as a company, and they are only they are a developer that only makes one game. And when you think about it, how is that going to work out in the long term? How long can you just make one game every year and keep your business profitable? And something about that business model raises a serious red flag. Now, unless they have plans to branch out and do other things, which they may, but as far as I know, uh, this is what their plans are, is based on making NASCAR games. Yeah, there's also that element of mobile gaming, which we haven't really heard too much about, which is good because I really don't like that. I did want them to focus all of their efforts on, the console and PC, of course, NASCAR games. But in the long term, it doesn't really make good business sense. There has to be uh, some plan to expand to something else, whether it's a different type of game. I don't know, but as long as they maintain this business model, I'm becoming more and more convinced that we may never get the game we want. And I hate saying it, but how long can you keep getting your hopes up, and then you see some improvement, but then it's like, okay, wait till next year, maybe then we'll get that fully fleshed out game that we've all wanted. Everybody keeps looking at a game like NASCAR Thunder 2004, because what made that game so great is that it did have everything. It was a complete experience. And with these games, they're piecemealing it every year. We're asking, why are they focused on certain things? Like, okay, yeah, they added this, the Dirt Series, but no paint booth. We still don't have presentation. The game still feels unfinished. And part of it is real obvious. I've said this before. Sports games are not like other games. These games are based on a sport. Sports don't change. Seasons change. Rosters change. But the sports remain what they are. Okay? And you watch sports every year because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to win a championship. You don't know, what's going to happen throughout the season. But the sport itself doesn't change. You watch football, it's the same. The game is the same. It's just the people, the personnel, the rosters, that stuff changes. So what keeps you coming back as a sports fan is just watching things play out. But what keeps you coming back as a gamer to play a sports game? Well, if you're going to buy the next iteration of a sports game every year, this is why sports games, no matter how good they are, eventually fall. They cannot maintain a level of excellence every year because by the very nature of being based on a sport, there's a limit to what you can do in a sports game other than update the rosters. And in terms of a NASCAR game, once you get a fully fleshed out game that gives you everything, what are you going to do next year? Yeah, you update the rosters, update the paint schemes, and then maybe throw in a little thing here, a little thing there. But basically, overall, it's still a NASCAR game. There's not much you can deviate. We've seen games like many years ago, Madden football was good, and eventually it turned to crap. NBA 2K, the series, it was great, and then eventually they hit a wall. So you can go back and play NBA 2K16, even, well, NBA 2K16 or earlier, and you had fantastic games. And then they just hit a wall. And then you realize, the game is mostly the same, but the storylines got worse. The presentation was, they try to change it up because that's all you can do. But they hit a wall there. And then, of course, the microtransactions was pretty much the death knell of that series. But every sports series, eventually, you just run out of things that you can possibly do because it's centered on a sport. It's not like other types of games, like adventure games or action games. Those type of games are centered on stories, locations. There's it's almost limitless what you can do depending on how your imagination works. So you can keep certain series of games going for long periods of time because one is completely different from the other. If you look at Grand Theft Auto, yes, they're all based on an open world, craziness, and do anything you want to do type of gameplay, but the stories are all different. They're all completely different. So each time they come out with a new one, you got a completely new story and a completely new location. And those are the things that sell for those games. And another thing is they don't come out every year. These yearly titles, it's a problem. There's only so much you can do every year. Now, I said this before. If I was a developer and I was making NASCAR games, I wouldn't put them out every year. I would probably release a new NASCAR game every 3 years. One, it keeps the games, at least the new release, is really fresh, right? So if you play one game for 3 years, the next game comes out, it really does feel like a whole new experience. Also, it gives you more time to work on improving to the next game and adding everything you need to add to make it a whole new experience. You can't do that with a yearly game. That I've talked about in the past. I've talked about that stuff. But with 704, you see that they've had now, since Evolution came out, over 3 years of development, and you still don't have that fully fleshed out game. When you go back to EA and they put out the Thunder series, that's when they were at their peak. But eventually, I would say after 2005, maybe 2006, there was a steady decline and then it went sharply down. They ran out of, they just ran out of ideas. It's just, what are you going to do? Update the rosters and try to, upgrade the graphics a little bit, do this, do that. But the games actually got worse, even though the graphics got slightly better. So that's what happens with yearly sports titles. But with EA, they could afford to make, like, let's say the 2003, 2004, 2005, which was the pinnacle of NASCAR games. They really could put out a fully fleshed out product, and they didn't have to worry about 10 years down the road, how can they keep this thing going, because EA is a bigger developer and they make other games. They didn't only make NASCAR games. They had other sports games and they had other games besides, sports, the sports division. So for them, they can afford to go more all out, where these small developers, like especially a 704 games, this is all they do is a NASCAR game every year. So I don't think they can give us a fully fleshed out game without risking, hurting their future sales, because let's say 2004, next year, the NASCAR Heat 4. Let's say that game comes out and it is that game we've all been screaming about for years. And they gave us everything we've been asking for. And we can grab that and hail it as the greatest NASCAR game ever. And we can bow to 704 and thank them. What happens after that? Where is the incentive to buy next year's game and the year after that? If you just gave me a fully fleshed out product that I love, what can you possibly do to improve on that? That's the problem. And unfortunately, and it's sad to say this, but it's starting to dawn on me that we may never see a fully fleshed out great game. Because what happens is they no longer have that carrot to dangle in front of you. They need that carrot. And what is the carrot? That makes you, I'm waiting for that next thing that that I'm hoping to see. That's dangling the carrot. So what's the carrot? Well, the carrot is presentation, stats, paint booth, track map, caution reap, all this stuff. The reason we haven't gotten all of that together yet is because those are carrots that they're dangling. And they know if they give you all the carrots, finally, you'll love it, you'll praise it, you'll buy it. But now there are no carrots left to dangle. So why should you buy the next game? What can they possibly do to the next game and the game after that? If you finally do have that, like let's say you had a game that's like NASCAR Thunder 2004. You would be like, I'm good. I'll play this shit for the next 5-6 years and I'll be thrilled. You're going to have to really do something special to top this. And they can't. So this is why I'm starting to see that they purposely focus on things like adding a series. Right? So, with NASCAR Heat 2, they finally gave us trucks and Xfinity. Then last year, they gave us dirt. So, they're trying to hold off the inevitable, to stave off the inevitable, which is reaching that wall. And 704 Games has the rights to make NASCAR games for the next 10 years. I don't remember the exact number, but they got the fucking license for a long, long time. So, if they really make a great game, it may hurt them. In a business sense. They'll make some good sales early, but it'll hurt future sales because where's the incentive? Where's that dangling carrot that makes you want to buy the next game if they give you everything now? And it's man, this is really scary. It's a scary thought, but I'm really starting to realize that might be what's happening here. Now, I hope I'm wrong. There's a chance I'm wrong. And hopefully with the advent of the next gen consoles, maybe they say, you know what? Let's fucking knock it out the park. This will be the last game for this generation. And people will still look forward to that next generation game. But something just tells me, man, in a business sense, they always want to have those carrots to dangle in front of you. And man, this really bothers me to think that this might be the case, but it's starting to really make sense to me. Some of it is not really new. I've talked about certain things before, things like yearly sports titles. I don't even think it's a good idea to release these games every year. There's only so much you can do. Just release a game and then wait 3 years. And then you have more time to really work on the next game. Improve it, add to it, so that when it finally comes out, you know you're getting a game that is really a big leap forward. But can they survive not releasing a game every year? I don't think they can. Their game sales for a NASCAR game they're never going to match, AAA titles from other developers. So these guys they're in a rough spot because they have to keep the company profitable. But if they give you a great game, that may hurt them for the next couple of years. No company that small that only has one product can survive doing business like that. And I've given these guys credit. They've shown a lot of improvement. NASCAR Heat 3 is not a terrible game. I know some people are really bash it. They really, but they act as if it's it's not a bad game. But it's not what we've been waiting for. It's not, it's embarrassing that it doesn't match a 15-year-old game. But the biggest problem is the fact that they're holding off from giving us that fully fleshed out product, a complete game. And these NASCAR games have been like that for some time, and it's pretty much the only series of games that I see that's like that. But I've been thinking about it, and it really dawned on me that there has to be why. There has to be a reason why. Because there's no way you're going to convince me that these guys are not aware. They know what we want. They're aware. And then once in a while, they will give you what you're asking for. They hear something, they hear the complaints, and they'll give it to you. Depending what it is. But they don't want to give you everything. The paint booth, that's another thing. Can they survive without DLC? I don't think they can. And I think they rely on that stuff. And if they give you a paint booth where you can customize your own cars and stuff, you'll be happy with that. And you may not care about buying all these extra paint schemes. And by the way, I've seen all these paint schemes online. Somebody put a video up and they showed every paint scheme. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a huge chunk of those paint schemes that are exactly like another paint scheme, except there's a couple of decals added. That's not fucking worth money. It's oh my God. The things people spend money on, and it's hurting the business. It's hurting the gaming community. But I'm sorry to say, I really do think that, and I want to be wrong, and I hope that I am, but it makes sense to me. And if I'm wrong, if somebody else out there can correct me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could say, hey man, you're wrong. This is what's happening, and I welcome to be corrected. Bring it on. But in my mind, some things make sense, some things don't make sense. And it just doesn't make sense to me, why they're piecemealing this stuff year after year. And that has to be the reason. And if it is, I'm sorry to say, I'm not sure we're ever going to get a fully fleshed out, complete NASCAR game. Because they keep telling us why they couldn't do this. Last year, it was, well, we were working on the dirt series. It took up most of our development time was on that. This year, it may be, well, we gave you a K&N series now, or an ARCA series. And most of our development time was on that. And the year after that will be something else. And then we'll keep asking for the things we really want, that really matter, that really improve the game. And they'll keep telling us, we'll look into it. Maybe next year. After NASCAR Heat Evolution, I still remember they were telling people, well, as far as no paint booth, we didn't have time to do it. We will look forward to maybe having it in a future iteration of the game. Here we are, another couple of years later, and there's still no paint booth. Presentation. The last time we saw presentation in a NASCAR game was over 10 years ago. So, presentation is non existent. And as bad as NBA 2K has become, with microtransactions and the awful storylines, and just they've steered away from some of the other elements that made the career mode so great. As bad as it is now, at least there is presentation. And these yearly sports titles just inherently, just by being a yearly title about a sport which you can't change, limits you on what you can actually do year to year to make people want to go out and buy it. And that's what I mean by dangling a carrot. Why should I buy? Let's say, like right now, if NASCAR Thunder 2004 was the type of game we got this year, and it's modeled after that, has all the features, all the greatness, but modernized, and we love it. Why would you buy next year's game? What could 704 possibly do with that to make you next year go out and buy that? And that, I'm sorry to say, I'm really starting to think is what's at the bottom of everything. Because these guys, they're not incompetent. They've shown ability. I've said it. There's so much potential within this series. In spite of all the bad stuff, there is potential. And what the fuck is holding these guys back? And that's what it is. I'm really convinced that's what it is. They know that if they give you everything in that one game, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Why would you buy next year's game? Just because it's the next year? I don't think this company's gonna make it to the end of their license. I'd be honest with you, unless they branch out and they start making other games and expand as a company, hire more people. But man, I hope I'm wrong. It really bothers me to say it, but I don't see why they would give us that fully fleshed out, complete game. I don't see it. So I really look forward to your comments. What do you think about what I'm saying? Do you agree? Do you disagree? If you disagree, man, school me. Let me know I'm wrong about something. That's, to me, what makes sense to me. So I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope these guys come out and announce some cool stuff. But I don't know, man. I don't see it. And judging by what we've seen up to now, I don't like what I see. So that's it. That's all I got to say for now. Let me know what you guys think, and I look forward to your comments.